Radha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, so welcome to discussions on the next unit of the Bhakti Veda course, unit 25, beginning of the 5th canto, chapter 1, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Okay, so a brief overview of the chapter. In the beginning, first 4 verses, Parikshit Maharaj is asking some questions, and then Shukdev Goswami begins to reply. First of all, he speaks about the glories of devotional service, and then 7 to 19, Brahma's arrival and his reasons to convince Maharaj Priyavrata. 20-22, Priyavrata's acceptance. 23 to 29, Priyavrata's rule and descendants. 30-35, Priyavrata's wonderful activities. And 38 to 41 is Priyavrata's repentance and rules. Okay, so let's start with the first verse. Rajovacha Priyavrto Bhagavata Atma Rama Katam Mune Grihe Ramatayan Mulaha Karma Bandha Parabhavaha. King Parikshit inquired from Shukdev Goswami, O great sage, why did King Priyavrata, who was a great self-realized devotee of the Lord, remain in household life, which is the root cause of the bondage of karma, fruitive activities, and which defeats the mission of human life? Okay, so it's a long purport. We want to go through the whole purport. We'll just read the key parts of the purport. So why is Shukdev Goswami, why is Maharaj Parikshit asking this question here, and why Shukdev Goswami began this discussion of Maharaj Priyavrata? What's the connection? Somebody knows? What's the connection from the previous canto?
Prachetas didn't come and explain. They are describing who will rule the world.
Mm-hmm.
They start describing who Maharaj Priyavrata and his decisions.
So if you just see the last chapter, so towards the end of the last chapter, as we know that in the last canto, Shukdev Goswami has been describing the descendants of Swayambhu. So Swayambhu had 2 sons, Uttanapad and Priyavrata. And so then basically discussed the descendants of King Uttanapad. There was Dhruva Maharaj, and then so all of Dhruva Maharaj's activities are described. And then further down, so within that same lineage, there is Vena and Prithu and all those descendants, and then finally he comes to King Prachin Parishad and the Prachetas. So he has described all that lineage. And towards the end of the last chapter, there's only one verse, I suppose, where Shukdev Goswami says, that Maharaj Priyavrat, even though he was encouraged to be in the renounced order by Narad Muni, but still he gives up that and takes to household life. But then at the end attains perfection. So there's one verse which Shukdev Goswami speaks. But as we see throughout the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj is never satisfied with shortcuts. So whenever Shukdev Goswami describes something in brief, Parikshit Maharaj asks some questions for elaboration. And that's the reason why now Shukdev Goswami begins to elaborate on Maharaj Priyavrat. And of course here Parikshit Maharaj is also asking some other questions. Okay, so here, King Parikshit is inquiring as to why, because that was what Shukdev Goswami narrated. So therefore he is asking why did King Priyavrat, who was Atma Rama, Bhagavata Atma Rama. So he was a great self-realized, self-satisfied devotee. Then why did he katam grihi aram? So then why did he give up that pleasure in self-realization and took pleasure in grihi, in household life? So what is the problem? The problem is yat moola karma bandhana. So which is the root cause of karma bandhana, bondage, and which is parabhava, defeats of the mission of human life. So later there's another verse also which comes in Lord Rishabhadev's teachings, parabhava. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is beginning, in the fourth canto, Srila Shukdev Goswami explains that Narad Muni perfectly instructed King Priyavrat about the mission of human life. The mission of human life is to realize oneself and then gradually to go back home, back to Godhead. Since Narad Muni instructed the king fully on this subject, why did he again enter household life, which is the main cause of material bondage? Maharaj Parikshit was greatly astonished that King Priyavrat remained in household life, especially since he was not only a self-realized soul, but also a first-class devotee of the Lord. A devotee actually has no attraction for household life, but surprisingly King Priyavrat enjoyed household life very much. One may argue, why is it wrong to enjoy household life? The reply is that in household life one becomes bound by the results of fruitive activities. Okay? And then one forgets the goal of human life, which is especially meant, the human form of life is especially meant for getting out of the bondage of fruitive activities. But as long as one is forgetful of his life's mission and acts like an ordinary animal, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, he must continue his conditioned life of material existence. Such a life is called Swarupa Vismriti, forgetfulness of one's real constitutional position. Therefore, in Vedic civilization, one is trained in the very beginning of life as a brahmachari. Brahmachari must execute austerities and refrain from sex indulgence. Therefore, one is completely trained in the principles of brahmacharya. He generally does not enter household life. He is then called a Naishtika brahmachari, which indicates total celibacy. King Parikshit was thus astonished that the great King Priyavrat, although trained in the principles of Naishtika brahmachari, entered household life. Okay. Then Srila Prabhupada is explaining about these words, Bhagavata Atma Rama, are very significant. If one is self-satisfied as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is called as Bhagavat Atma Rama. Then he's talking about karmis, jnanis, and then the devotees. So karmis, jnanis, they're not satisfied. Then he says the Lord is self-satisfied because he's fully opulent. And one who is satisfied by serving him is called as Bhagavata Atma Rama. And then he's quoting Manushanam Sahasresham. Further down the purport, the Jnanis and the Karmis have desires as do the yogis, but devotees have no desires. Satisfaction in the service of the Lord is called akama, freedom from desire, and this is the ultimate satisfaction. Satisfaction in the service of the Lord is called akama, freedom from desire, and this is the ultimate satisfaction. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit inquired, how could one who was fully satisfied on the highest platform be satisfied with family life? Then he's describing the word parabhava, defeats. And then he's quoting Prahlad Maharaj, Atmapatam griham andakupam. Household life is like dark well. If one falls into this well, his spiritual death is assured. How Priyavrat Maharaj remained a liberated Paramahamsa even within family life is described in the next verse. Okay. So this is the question of Parikshit Maharaj, that how even though Priyavrat Maharaj was Bhagavata Atma Rama, but still he took to household life. Why? That is Parikshit Maharaj's question. So talking on the subject matter of satisfaction, so in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about satisfaction. Where does he talk about satisfaction? Many places. But more specifically in the 17th chapter. 17th chapter, which was?
The austerity of mind.
Yes, exactly. 16th verse. The austerity of mind. So, santushta, being satisfied, is an austerity of the mind. So Srila Prabhupada in a lecture he says that sometimes you see that a poor man with very little facilities is satisfied, and a rich man with a lot of facilities and a lot of opulence is dissatisfied. What is the reason? What is the reason?
Expectation.
Yes, expectations.
About the mind.
So what's wrong with the mind? Something wrong with the mind?
Hankering for more and more.
Yes. So basically desires for more and more and more. So that is the nature of the mind. So the mind always tends to hanker for more. So therefore, here Krishna is saying that the austerity of the mind is to become satisfied. That is austerity. That means what? That means in the conditioned state where the mind is normally influenced by Rajogun, it is not possible for the mind to be satisfied. And therefore, as an austerity, one has to practice becoming satisfied as an austerity. So why one should be satisfied? That's what Krishna is saying. As an austerity, one needs to practice satisfaction. Practice being satisfied. So why?
Only a person who is materially satisfied can practice bhakti.
Okay, good. Why?
Or else his focus will be more on the material aspect.
Yes, good. So if one is not materially satisfied, he cannot make spiritual progress. Okay, manorathena sati dhavato vahi. So sitting on the chariot of the mind, he is wandering. So the mind is wandering. And so a dissatisfied mind cannot focus on spiritual life. Okay. So what are some other what could be some of the reasons why as devotees one may be dissatisfied? Here we are talking about devotee, right? Priyavrat Maharaj, he was devotee, Bhagavata. So as devotees, what could be the causes of dissatisfaction?
Main is when sadhana is not proper.
So that dissatisfaction is good or bad?
When sadhana is not proper, the person is irritated for everything. So that is not good.
Uh-huh.
Just to improve the sadhana, yes, that is good.
Okay, to improve the sadhana, that dissatisfaction is good dissatisfaction. So then one will try to improve. Okay, yes.
When you see other conditions also.
When you see the other conditions also?
suffering and not on this matter.
Suffering. So that dissatisfaction, good or bad? That is good. Okay, fine. So, what are the causes of unnecessary dissatisfaction?
Competition with other Vaishnavas
Yes, competition with other Vaishnavas. For what?
for some material designations or possessions.
Yes, material designations, possessions. Yes, so that type of competition and desire, that's good or bad?
Extremely bad.
Extremely bad. Okay. Why it is bad?
Because we are in the association of Vaishnavas to advance in bhakti and not to compete on material platform and get deviated.
Okay, so then one gets deviated. Okay. What about some other reasons for being dissatisfied materially?
Enviousness.
Okay, enviousness. Enviousness leads to?
For the greed, for the hankering.
Okay, hankering. Again, same thing, material competition. Material competition. Yes?
Lack of absorption in our own spiritual sadhana.
Yes, very important points. Yes, so lack of absorption in one's own spiritual practices, that will lead to dissatisfaction. Yes, because then one's consciousness will be on the material platform, and on the material platform one is bound to be influenced by material tendencies, material anarthas, and then there will be all these various problems. Yes. Any other causes?
Forgetfulness of one's own position as a servant.
Okay, forgetfulness of one's own position as servant. Okay, good. So then what will happen?
We try to be hankering, we try to be more controller, enjoy.
Okay. We forget our position as servant, then we try to be enjoyers and controllers. Okay, good. What else?
Not being satisfied with the services.
Not being satisfied with one's own service. So then what will happen?
Person become little depressed, not able to render.
If he is depressed that he is not able to render sufficient service, that's good or bad?
If that will that will propel him to render more service, then it is good. Otherwise, it's
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, so if one is thinking that, oh, others have got better service, I don't have that type of service. So if there's a material outlook towards the service and there is comparison and competition, then that's bad. Then that will not help one to progress. If one has a desire to serve more in general, then that's good. But then having a material outlook, that's bad. Some other causes?
When relationships are strained in the association of sadhakas, so when the person is not getting a rasa to come to the association of Vaishnavas, he will not be satisfied.
Okay, that's also an important cause of dissatisfaction. That's correct. That is not having healthy Vaishnava relationships. Yes. So that also definitely causes dissatisfaction, because as Prabhupada writes in C.C. Purports, we'll be reading that soon, that how man is a social animal, and so therefore it's essential that he has good devotee association. We're looking for one or two more important causes for dissatisfaction.
Disobedience to the Guru or Krishna's instructions.
Okay, fine. So disobedience to the Guru. So that becomes what? Yes, that becomes an offense. That becomes an offense. So when one commits an offense, what happens? What happens?
Will lead to more offense and the person will be slowly
Okay, could lead to more offense. That's correct.
material inclination.
What's that?
Material inclination.
Material inclinations. Why?
You lose taste in this spiritual.
Why?
offenses cover the bhakti.
Offenses cover the bhakti. Why?
That's the punishment, right?
Why punishment?
Krishna is displeased.
Yes, that's the point. Krishna is not pleased. So when Krishna is displeased, Krishna withdraws his mercy. When the mercy is withdrawn, then no taste. No taste. One loses taste. When one loses taste for spiritual things, then there is no other option. The material inclinations and the material desires increase. Okay. So all these could be various reasons for dissatisfaction in the life of a sadhaka. So therefore, and as long as one is a sadhaka, one is not perfect, there is always a possibility of some dissatisfaction because one is not pure. Therefore, Krishna is saying, okay, there could be some causes for dissatisfaction, but still learn to be satisfied as an austerity, tapasya. So just like these days, sometimes devotees compete with other devotees for YouTube followers. Oh, he's having more followers, I don't have. Oh, what's this? He's more famous. Or he sings better. So many people are attracted towards his kirtans. Nobody wants to even stay in my kirtan. So then what to do? Is there any surgery to change the voice? Any surgery? No.
Heart
Then-
surgery.
Huh?
Heart surgery.
Oh yes, that's right. So therefore, what to do? As an austerity, one has to learn to be satisfied. This is what Krishna has given me. Be satisfied. That's why Krishna is saying it's an austerity. It's not easy, correct? It's not easy to convince the mind, be satisfied. This is what you've got, be satisfied. Not easy. But as an austerity, if one wants to make spiritual progress. So, then the next question arises, so how do we cultivate this satisfaction? How do we cultivate? Because it's an austerity, right? It's not going to come automatically. Then how do we cultivate?
Always keep ourselves as a learner.
As a
As a learner.
learner.
Yeah. New devotee. You can feel should always be new to Krishna consciousness.
So then how one will be satisfied?
At least we are not yet to learn many things.
Uh-huh.
In that position, we need to think so that we will be satisfied whatever we are.
Okay, possible. Okay, some other ways to cultivate? Yes.
To try and to endeavor to satisfy Guru and the other Vaishnavas, and by them being satisfied,
Okay, that's a good point. Yes, by trying to satisfy Guru and Krishna, one will be satisfied. Now, that's what Prabhupada is writing here. The Lord is self-satisfied. And one who is satisfied by serving Him is called Bhagavad Atma. Yes, so that's the ultimate solution. To serve the one who is self-satisfied. So by serving Him, then one also can develop the same quality. Some other ways? Ahituki apratiyata bhakti. Then what happens? Yatma suprasiddhi. Yes, the principle is the same. So by serving the Supreme Lord without any material motives and desires, then that leads to satisfaction. What's Prahlad Maharaj's example in this connection?
By decorating reflection of
Yes, by decorating the face, the reflection of the face in the mirror is automatically decorated. So similarly, by serving Krishna, who is self-satisfied, one also becomes satisfied. So Srila Prabhupada, many times in his lectures, he says that if one dresses the Lord very opulently, one's own desire to dress opulently will vanish. So by serving the Lord, then one will be automatically satisfied. Some other ways?
Trying to improve the absorption in sattva.
Okay, good. Yes, trying to improve the absorption, attention in one's own sadhana practices, correct? Then what will happen by that?
Sadhana improves, then mind will become naturally become little satisfied and we won't commit offenses to be able to do.
Okay, so why by improving sadhana, why mind will be satisfied? What's the connection?
Because spiritually we'll feel nourished and we won't be looking for that material outlook will go.
Okay, fine, spiritually nourished. Okay, a little more philosophical answer. What happens when we improve the quality of a sadhana?
Krishna will become easy.
Okay, one thing is Krishna is pleased, that's correct. And what will happen?
Heart will be cleansed.
Yes, the purification will take place. Purification. Because now all the hankerings are due to what? Yes, Rajagun, Tamagun. That is the cause of all the hankerings. So, the more one gets purified, then the more the hankerings will reduce. Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayasya chete teranavatam satam satam. So, that is how one will get purified and then the hankerings will reduce. I'm looking for at least one point more. How to cultivate satisfaction.
By associating those who are practicing it only.
Okay, by associating with those who are self-satisfied and also by hearing about those devotees who are self-satisfied. And one more. How can one attain Shanti?
529.
So, what is it?
We understand that Krishna is Supreme Lord and He is our well-wisher. Whatever happens, because Krishna gives is good for me, my well-wisher.
Yes, that's right. So, when one understands that Krishna is the controller, at the same time he is my well-wisher, so therefore whatever he has given me is for my best benefit. So when one understands that, I'm satisfied. Yes. So Krishna is controller, so he has given me this much. What to do? Well, but at the same time I soothe him, so therefore he knows what is best for me, so be satisfied. So one of the important qualities of a Brahmana to be self-satisfied. Srila Prabhupada tells the pastime of this Brahmana in Krishnanagar. We have mentioned this quite a few times. There was this Brahmana at Krishnanagar, and there was the Zamindar of Krishnanagar. He was like the king of Krishnanagar. Prabhupada says that his name was Krishnananda Rai. Therefore, the name of the place is Krishnananda Rai. So once he was passing through the house of this poor Brahmana who was living in a small cottage, and then he saw a very poor Brahmana. He went to the house and he asked, "So you seem to be very poor, and so can I help you in any way?" So the Brahmana said, "No, I'm okay." "No, you seem to be very poor. Should I give you some wealth or build a better house for you or something?" I said, "I'm satisfied. So I'm a Brahmana, I do some teaching, and my students, they get some bhiksha for me. They get some rice, and my wife cooks the rice, and there's one imli tree here, tamarind tree, and so I pluck the tamarind leaves and put in the rice, and we eat, finished. No pasta, pizzas, nothing. So that's Brahmana, satisfied with whatever he gets. Of course, if one gets pasta pizza, no problem, as long as one does not over endeavor for it. So the point is that so these are different ways by which one needs to cultivate that satisfaction as an austerity. It's not natural in the conditioned state. And that's also the lesson which Lord Vamandev teaches Bali Maharaj. Correct? So let's read a few verses in that connection. So this is 8th Canto, 19th chapter, and I suppose this is verse number 32.
I think before this one.
Before 25. Yes. Yes, 24, 23. Yes, as we know, Bali Maharaj says, by asking only 3 paces of land, so you seem to be less intelligent. I can give you so much. So then, yes, this begins from verse 21. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yavanto Vishaya Preshta Strilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayatum Nripa. The personality of God said, "Oh my dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled." So if somebody is ajitendriya, then whatever is given to him, he is never going to be satisfied. He always wants more and more and more. Okay? That's what we see in the present day. So when one gets one variety of mobile, then after 2 days another variety comes, then what the person thinks? Oh, this is old style. I want the latest one. And the same thing applies to anything, right? It could be mobiles, laptops, cars, anything. No satisfaction. Why? Because one is ajitendriya. Then whatever he gets is never going to be satisfied. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yat indriya pritaya aprinoti. So therefore, he says, if I were not satisfied with 3 pieces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possess 1 island, I would hope to get others. I won't be satisfied. And then he's given some examples. And then he says one important verse. Yadrichayopavannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas trivi loker ajitatmo pasadite. So one should be satisfied. Yadrichaya upapannena. So you can see Prabhupada is translating Yadrichaya as offered by the supreme authority according to one's karma. So according to one's karma, whatever one has got, one should be satisfied. Santushta. Then there will be sukham. Then one can be happy. But on the other hand, one who is dissatisfied, asantushta, then trivi loke, you give him all the 3 worlds, trivi loke. But because he is ajitatma, he is not going to be satisfied. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Prahlad Maharaj. Sukamendriyakam detya deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate deva gita dukam mayatnatah. So just like dukh comes without inviting, so similarly sukha also will come. So why should one make unnecessary endeavor for the sukh with trying to get so many material things? So therefore Prabhupada writes here, according to Brahmanical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor and should cultivate spiritual consciousness, then he will be happy. So therefore in the Upadeshamrita Rupa Goswami says what? Second verse? Atyar prayas. So there should not be prayas to get material things without special endeavor. So somebody may ask, how do we decide what is the special endeavor? How much endeavor is special and how much is normal?
If it is not becoming an obstacle for the sadhana, then yes, isn't that good?
And should cultivate spiritual consciousness. So if the endeavor is an obstruction to cultivate spiritual consciousness, then it is special endeavor. So if it is not an obstruction to cultivating spiritual consciousness, then that is okay. Then he will be happy. And the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. This understanding. What understanding? Yadrichaya upapannena. That understanding. That is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. Because the purpose is to cultivate Krishna consciousness, then one should be satisfied. Okay, so that is tapasya. Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhi yasmat brahma saukhyam. So you see in the next verse again, Lord Vamandev is using the same words. What? Yadrichaya upapannena. Same thing, he's repeating. Yadrichaya upapannena. In the Bhagavad Gita also there's one verse, right? Yadrichaya.
Sure.
Huh? Yadrichaya labha santushtas. So many places this word comes, yadrichya. So yadrichya means whatever one obtains according to one's karma. Pumsoyam samsmriter hetur asantosho arthakamayo yadrichya upapannena santosho muktaye smrita. So material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is the cause for what? Samsmriti. This is the cause for continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death. But one who is satisfied with that which is obtained by destiny, muktaye smrita, he becomes qualified for liberation from the material existence. Otherwise, if one is discontent, one will continue. So therefore, now this is the important verse. Yadrichalavattushtasya tejo viprasya vardate tat prashamyasya santoshad ambha seva shushukshani. So if, again the same word, this is the third time, yadricha. So how many times is speaking the same word? To emphasize that point. Be satisfied with what is obtained. So previously Prabhupada translated that as according to karma. Here he translates this yadricha labhatushtasya as who satisfied things obtained by the grace of God. Both are same. So whatever one has obtained, be satisfied. Then what will happen? Especially this instruction is being given for Brahmana. Then what will happen? Teja viprasya vardate. Teja, Prabhupada translates that as the brilliant effulgence of the Brahmana increases. So when is satisfied, effulgence will increase. So what is this effulgence? Effulgence of the bodily luster. So what is this? Tejo vipras. Huh?
Shining devotion.
Shining devotion. Oh, that's interesting. What? You're saying something? Maybe
the realization.
Yes, Brahmanical realization or spiritual potency. The spiritual potency, that is the Viprateja. That is what increases. But if one has asantoshat, then tat prashamyati, so that effulgence is reduced. Spiritual potency. So for the Brahmana, what is important is spiritual potency. And is giving analogy. What is the analogy? Just like pouring water on fire. So the fire is extinguished. A Brahmana who is satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained is increasingly enlightened with spiritual power. That is the Brahmateja, spiritual power. But the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahmana decreases as fire diminishes the potency of water and sprinkled on it. So what's the connection between satisfaction and spiritual power?
Satisfied, then only you can cultivate Krishna consciousness and spiritual power. Not satisfied, automatically.
Okay. Some addition to that?
But absorption will be more when a person is satisfied.
Absorption in what?
Absorption in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, that's right. So when one is satisfied, then one can absorb oneself in spiritual activities. So we all have experience. So during chanting, if we are hankering for some things, what happens during chanting?
Mind is going that area.
Yes, the mind gets hooked on to whatever desire is there. Then throughout the chanting, the mind will be contemplating, I want this, I want this. All the time the mind will be contemplating. Correct? Whatever it is, spiritual or material, whatever it is. But if there's a desire, the mind gets hooked on. Then there's no focus. So that is what happens. So that's why the spiritual potency reduces. So all these are the effects of a dissatisfied mind. And therefore Krishna is telling, as an austerity, one needs to practice satisfaction. Otherwise, a dissatisfied person cannot make spiritual progress. Of course, as we already discussed those points before, but on the spiritual platform, one should be satisfied or dissatisfied? Yes, one should always be hankering for more. So that type of lobha is good. What is the meaning of it?
Like
There's another mic there. See, it's just there behind.
Janakya says that three things we should be satisfied and three things we should not be satisfied.
What are they?
So three things we should not be satisfied is Swadhyaya, or studying the scriptures, and Japa, the chanting of the holy name, and Dana. Charity.
And what?
Dana.
Charity.
Charity.
And satisfied?
And satisfied with Swadare, opposite sex, and Swadare, and Dhana, and Bhajana. Swadare, Bhajana, and Dhana.
Bhojan and
Dhana.
Dhana.
All
Well,
opulence.
okay, fine. These three things one should be satisfied. Good, thank you.
This satisfaction should be cultivated artificial and kind of so forcefully or naturally. Naturally does not happen so easily.
So when you talk of austerity, what does it mean?
It's basically accepting the bodily inconvenience, what are the unfavorable thing as
Yadrichaya.
with the Lord's arrangement.
Yes. So when you say it's austerity, that means it's not natural, isn't it? So there has to be some, therefore it's a cultivation. Because it's not natural, therefore it has to be cultivated. If it is natural, then what's the problem? There's no problem only then. Then why call it austerity? If it's natural. The very fact that Krishna says an austerity means it's not natural in the conditions. So then one has to make some endeavor to cultivate it. Right. Okay, so that's what that's the question of Parikshit Maharaj, and that's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. So therefore, if one is following the Supreme Lord who is Atmaram, then one can also become Bhagavad Atmaram. Then the devotee also can become Atmaram by perfectly tuning oneself in accordance to the desires of the Supreme Lord. Of course, a good example for us is Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada in the initial days when he was in India and when he was in India, we read that practically he had only one pair of dhoti and kurta. That had no money, nothing. But Srila Prabhupada, he was satisfied and he was fully endeavoring to please Guru and Krishna. And then when he went to the West in the early years, when he was staying in America, so much austerity, so many difficulties, so much of inconvenience. Srila Prabhupada never stopped. He continued his service. And later, so much of opulence, Srila Prabhupada continued with the service. He didn't relax. That's satisfaction in all situations. Any comments or questions on that discussion?
So, only as part of personal application, because Gita Marathon,
Oh,
so
it's almost ended, right?
another 12 days.
The marathon never ends.
Not satisfied.
So, so being not satisfied and distributing the books, yeah, we could do more, but when, because the targets are not met, so.
So your goal is the target.
So the focus moves from from the essence then to the numbers.
Uh-huh.
So that is also a dissatisfaction.
So what do you think? That's good or bad?
It's bad. It's bad because we are not focusing on the essence. I mean,
What is this?
like to have more more respect and more basically from the feeling of not feeling compassionate for people and distributing them. We just want whoever comes take. We don't even see the face of the person and take the book. So compassion part goes away, number part comes up.
So if you see the face of a person, then what happens?
At least we should have some relation and the purpose of distributing the book I mean goes lower.
I'm unable to understand what's the difference. If so, so you mean to say that okay, while giving the book, then you give a half an hour lecture and then give the book, or what do you think?
So my specific question is the dissatisfaction and satisfaction part.
Yes, yes.
So because we are not able to meet the targets, so rather than focusing more on why we are doing, if the number goes up, that is making us satisfied. So,
Okay. So now what is your purport to this yena kena prakare? Or if you want to translate that into English, then it is called by hook or by crook. So what is your purport to that? That is very important. What is the hook and what is the crook?
okay, hook and crook means a person is completely disinterested in giving us time or even looking at the book.
Okay.
But we almost beg, at least take one. We also know he is not going to read, and he is very sure that by looking us bleeding, he is just giving us some time. So,
But that is what Prabhupada Saraswati said. You know Prabhupada Saraswati?
in Varanasi, Prabhupada, sorry, I don't know.
So Prabhupada Saraswati, he was the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, right?
Yes.
honestly, yes.
So he says that what is the method of preaching? Prabhupada says this is the method of preaching. When you go and meet a person, you take a straw between your teeth. Of course, you may not take straw, but then the mode is of utter humility and fall at his feet. Fall at his feet and say, my dear sir, you're first flatter him. So, my dear sir, you're very learned, you're a great sadhu, you're spiritually inclined, you're such a wonderful gentleman. So now we plead, we beg you, please forget everything that you've learned and please take this book. That's what the Acharya says. That's what we're supposed to do. So this is what the Acharya is saying. And that's what Prabhupada said, that's what we should do. So then, if you're doing that, that's very nice. That's perfectly in line with what the Acharya is saying. So what's wrong with that?
I have a feeling that this may affect the image of the school, because people may say that they are just focusing on.
No. If a person is coming and you're pleading with him, please take this book. This book will be very beneficial for you. What's wrong with that?
Because next time the person will change the way and he will not even come. When Sankirtan devotee is coming. So maybe they are getting immediate result, but afterwards they may go further away from.
No, but if one is showing humility, other person should be impressed by the humility, no? If it is a genuine humility. So see, there is, as Srila Prabhupada said, preaching means to make the disinterested interested. Once a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, when you're preaching, we find most people are not interested. Prabhupada said, that's why you have to preach. If you find all people are interested, then to whom you are going to preach? So, and what is the methodology of preaching? That's what the Acharya is teaching. This is the methodology of preaching. So now, if in spite of using, so see, as far as we are concerned, we have to follow the Acharya, correct? So if you're following the Acharya, that is perfect. Now, if that person gets some other image of what can we do? Ultimately, everyone has free will. Correct. But we are supposed to follow the Acharya. So if we are requesting a person, please take the book with all humility, it's good. That's perfect. Now, if he thinks something else, what can we do? As far as we are concerned, we have to follow the Acharya. So then what about the hook and crook? Okay, fine. Okay, he wants to say something.
Just want to add, like you mentioned in humility, sometimes you have to become angry also and start pushing down.
Okay, how does that coincide with humility? How does that go along with humility? One is getting angry.
That should, for some time they show humility and that person is not taking.
Oh, that means that was not genuine humility.
That is not there.
No, if somebody is humble and at the same time he is angry because the other person is not taking the book, then how is that humility? Then that's fake humility. So as most expert book distributors say, what is very important is that you leave a person with a good impression, a good taste. So even if one does not take the book, we say, Hare Krishna, thank you. Be happy that he is becoming an instrument to humble us. Right? Okay, so coming back to the discussion, so should we be satisfied or not? So his question is book distribution scores. Should we be satisfied with how much we have distributed or no? Yes, Prabhu.
We can continue instead of focusing on this course. You can do book distribution throughout the year whenever you get an opportunity.
Definitely. But his question is specifically for the marathon targets. So one does 2 books and says Yadrichaya. Good use of philosophy. Yes, you should.
Yes, So we have to put our endeavor, 100% endeavor, and the result is with Krishna. So when we feel that our endeavor is not up to the mark, then the diligent effort is important. The result finally up to Krishna, whatever it is. When we are satisfied internally that we put our endeavor, then but suppose our capacity is 100 and we say to put something, so that may not be appropriate.
Yes. Yes, so we have to put our full endeavor. Right. So, see, having a target is good in the conditioned states. It's not, and that's what Srila Prabhupada himself did, right? Double the scores. So the target is an impetus for us to push ourselves to reach that target. But at the same time, as we read Prabhupada's purports, it should not lead to going away from spiritual consciousness. That endeavor to reach the target should not result in going away from spiritual consciousness. So that means if in reaching that target of book distribution, as the discussion is going on, but it could apply to anything else, in trying to reach that target, if we are losing the spiritual consciousness and going to a material consciousness, that means somehow trying to get the score by crooked means. So in the history of our society, there have been examples of crooked means to get scores. So sometimes there are immoral, unethical, and crooked ways. In Prabhupada's time, sometimes what the devotees would do is, so a person has taken some books and say he has taken books worth $50 and he gives $100. He gives $100 notes. And so then what devotees would do? Okay, we don't have change, sir. Okay, take another 10 books. So, and the man would say, no, but I don't want. No, they would dump another 10 books and run away. Right? And the person would get very angry and irritated by that behavior. So that is crooked means. That's crooked. So that means we are not doing the activity in spiritual consciousness. Our consciousness has become material. So if in trying to achieve our scores and targets, if our consciousness is turning from spiritual to material, then that means we are going on the wrong track. So the target is a good impetus for us to increase our endeavor to please Guru and Krishna. But then while doing that, we should not be going away from Guru and Krishna by material consciousness. Then everything is spoiled. So therefore the barometer of whether one is going into the zone of prayas is what is our consciousness. That is the barometer. So if our prayas is going in the wrong direction and our consciousness is becoming material, that means we are on the wrong track. Okay, that's okay, fine. Anything else on that discussion? Where's the mic?
Regarding book distribution, this point, it's we've seen the history of this one book distribution. We've seen the history of ISKCON book distribution that it's not always the person who buys the book that ends up reading it. So with that mood that somehow the book should reach the person out, I think that's because I've seen this in my example, my mother bought the Gita 10 years back and then I ended up reading it. So maintaining this mood that somehow just by giving that book to the person, even though the interaction may not be that satisfactory, but somehow that book ends up in the person's house and someone...
Yes, so therefore, who is going to read is not our botheration. That's not our botheration. What to speak of reading? What did Srila Prabhupada say? Even if somebody touches the book, even if somebody touches the book, his devotional service will begin. So therefore, and then what to speak if he buys it? On one hand, he gets so much of Bhakti Sukruti by using his money to buy it. And that's how his devotional service is actually beginning. Now, whether he reads it now or whether he reads it after 10 years or whether somebody else reads it after 10 years, well, who knows? But as long as the book reaches the home, then many people are definitely going to benefit. And so that's our goal. Our goal is to see that the books reach people, that's all. But then again, so what is the definition of hook and crook? That has to be carefully understood. So basically, I should probably explain. The meaning is that one can speak in ways by which one is appropriately able to convince a person to take the book. Okay, so it does not mean any immoral or illegal means to somehow get to this goal. No, the spiritual consciousness always has to be maintained. All right? Because when the spiritual consciousness is maintained, Krishna will be satisfied by the sincere endeavor, and then we will also be satisfied. So therefore, the principles of pure devotional service can never be compromised. All right? Okay. Now let's go to the second verse. So Parikshit Maharaj, these are all Parikshit Maharaj's questions in the first 4 verses. Second verse. Na nunam mukta sanganam tadrishanam dvijarshava griheshu abhiniveshoyam pumsam bhavitum arhati. Devotees are certainly liberated persons. Therefore, O greatest of the Brahmanas, they cannot possibly be absorbed in family affairs. So Parikshit Maharaj is continuing his question, where he says, devotees, they are mukta sangana, they are free from attachment. So then why did Priyavrat Maharaj, he entered into this family life, he became absorbed, abhinivesh. So it is, the word that's used is griheshu abhinivesh. So abhinivesh means absorption, excessive attachment to worldly affairs. So why did that take place? So that's his question. Okay, Prabhupada is quoting from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya. And then he says, and also Bhaktyamaham vijanati. And then he says, thus for a bhakta to become attached to family affairs is impossible, since a bhakta and his associates are liberated. Everyone is searching after ananda or bliss, but in the material world there can never be any bliss. It is only possible in devotional service. Attachment for family affairs and devotional service are incompatible. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was somewhat surprised to hear that Maharaj Priyavrat was simultaneously attached to devotional service and to family life. Okay, so that's incompatible. So one, as Prabhupada writes in so many places, material attachment and Krishna consciousness go ill together. So one cannot be attached to 2 things at the same time, or one cannot put one foot in one boat and one foot in another boat at the same time. Very uncomfortable situation. One cannot progress. So therefore, that's Parikshit Maharaj's question. How could he be attached to both at the same time? That's his question. Third, Mahatam kalu viprarshe uttama shloka padayo chaya nivritta chittanam na kutumbe sprihamatihi. Elevated Mahatmas who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fully satiated by the shade of those lotus feet. Their consciousness cannot possibly become attached to family members. Mahatam, Kalu, certainly, who are Uttama Shloka Padayo, Chaya, those who have taken the Chaya, the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they are on the shades, or the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then they are Nirvritta Chittanam Na Kutumbe Sprihamati. Their spriha, their consciousness can never become attached Their consciousness cannot become overly attached simply to family members because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So what happens when one takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? Why they lose all these attachments? Hmm?
Because he comes to know his constitution Krishna. So, service to the Lord.
Right, the point of hiatus is correct because that's what Srila Prabhupada concludes the purports by saying, quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishtva Nivartate. One gives up lower engagements when he experiences a higher taste. Thus, one becomes detached from family life as soon as he comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. At the beginning, Prabhupada is quoting this Vaishnava song, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Ye Chayaya Jagat Judai. The shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, so nice and cooling, that all materialists who are always in the blazing fire of material activities may come under the shade of his lotus feet and be fully relieved and satiated. So what does this mean? So one takes shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, the Supreme Lord. One feels all relief. Means what? Means no more miseries will be there for the devotee who takes shelter. Huh? Okay, so he will not be disturbed. Means what?
He'll become indifferent to all those obstacles and problems.
So indifferent means what? So suppose like now it is cold, so he becomes indifferent to the cold. So that means he should not wear his sweater or anything like that, and he should put only uttari. Indifferent to the cold. Is that the meaning?
Means Anya-manask.
What?
Anya-manask means it will not, it comes in the Kapil Dev. The person will become, his mind will not be caring for the things which are externally.
Okay, what you're saying is correct, but what does it practically mean?
Without interruption, he continues his practice of devotional service.
Okay, that's correct, yes. So basically the point is that the inconveniences don't create an obstacle in his devotional service. That's the point. And Srila Prabhupada has beautifully explained this, if somebody can quickly open. In 2nd Canto, 8th chapter, 6th verse. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam na Munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantasva Shannam Yatha. So there also that same point is coming. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna, the one who has become purified and he has taken shelter of the lotus feet. He never leaves. Padamulam na Munchati. Why he does not leave the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? Mukta Sarva Pariklesha. Because he has become free from all miseries. So what does it exactly mean? Prabhupada beautifully explains. Somebody got it?
Yes.
Okay, read the purport.
One who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in the heart. But a perfectly cleansed person never quits the devotion service of the Lord. In discharging such devotion service, as ordered by Brahmaji to Narada in the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes a representative of the Lord engaged in preaching work meets various so-called difficulties.
So-called difficulties.
This was exhibited by Lord Nityananda when he delivered the two fallen souls Jagai and Madai. And similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified by the non-believers. But such difficulties are very gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching.
Gladly suffered.
Gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching, because in such activities, although apparently very severe, the devotees of the Lord feel transcendental pleasure because the Lord is satisfied.
Because the Lord is satisfied. So, the devotees continue their service because they know that that service will please the Lord in spite of the difficulties. So it does not mean that the difficulties will not be there, or it does not mean that the difficulties may not affect him. No, whatever be the situation, whether difficulties are there, not there, whether he's affected, not affected. But in any case, he knows that if he continues his service, the Lord will be pleased. And so the pleasure of the Lord becomes the devotee's pleasure. And with that consciousness, he continues, he does not give up. He does not give up his service in spite of the difficulties. So that is the meaning of the shade of the lotus feet and not feeling the tribulations of the material worlds. So, so therefore, that is the meaning of becoming relieved. May come under the shade of his lotus feet and be fully relieved and satiated. So that is the real understanding. It does not mean that no more problems, no more difficulties. No, that's not the meaning. So the problems and difficulties will definitely be there because that's just the nature of the material world. But in spite of that, one continues. And of course, to the degree one has the higher taste, and higher taste is present when one is fixed in trying to please the Supreme Lord. Then in spite of the difficulties, one continues. Okay, fourth verse. Samshayoyam mahan brahman dharagara sudadishu saktasya yat siddhirabhut krishne cha matirachyuta. The king continued, "O great Brahmana, this is my great doubt, Samshay. How was it possible for a person like King Priyavrata, who was so attached to wife, children, and home, to achieve the topmost infallible perfection in Krishna consciousness?" So that is Parikshit Maharaj's question. Okay, fine. So, okay, before going to Shukla Goswami's answer, maybe we'll take a break for 10 minutes and then continue. Okay, Hare Krishna. is okay? Your health is okay?
Sorry?
Your health is okay?
Yes, what is under control?
Diabetes. You take medicine?
Night one tablet. Food restriction. I'm not doing any physical activity. Anyway, some walking I was doing.
That's important.
Very cold.
No, in the daytime. Going on?
So I have one question. It's spiritual power. So what is that provided?
Spiritual potency. So spiritual potency is required for one's spiritual practices. So we are able to chant the holy names and we are reading and do some services all because of spiritual. Krishna's mercy. So where did it? It has come from the source. Krishna's mercy. So obviously one gets Krishna's mercy to the degree one is following Krishna's principle. So that means one is not hankering for material things, wanting to make spiritual progress. That's what pleases Krishna. That is spiritual. Nothing is perfect in this world. Some problems always have to go on. Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's continue. Vaishuddha Goswami's answer to Parikshit Maharaj's question. Okay, fifth verse. So the verse is in a prose form, we can't recite, but we'll just read it. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhadam Uktam Bhagavata Uttama Shlokasya Srimad Charanarvinda Makaranda Rasa Aveshita Chetaso Bhagavata Paramhamsa Taita Katham Kinchit Antaraya Vihatam Swam Shivatamam Padamim Na Prayena Hinvanti. So, Bhadam means yes. Bhadam Uktam, what you have said is correct. So, Shukadeva Goswami said, what you have said is correct. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was praised in eloquent transcendental verses by such exalted personalities as Brahma, are very pleasing to great devotees and liberated persons. One who is attached to the nectarian honey of the Lord's lotus feet and whose mind is always absorbed in his glories may sometimes be checked by some impediment, but he still never gives up the exalted position he has acquired. Okay? So here he's saying, Srimad Charanarvinda Makaranda Rasai Aveshita Chetasa. So somebody is aveshita, totally absorbed, avesh. Avesh literally means what? Somebody is haunted. So it's almost like being haunted. Avesh the chetasa. By what? The honey, makaranda, that is there at the Srimad Charanarvinda, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So for such great Paramhamsas, so such Katham, the glorification is always very pleasing. But still, kinchit sometimes, antaraya vihatam, so there can be some impediments, even for such devotees who are totally absorbed in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, but still there could be some impediments. But in spite of those impediments, na prayena hinvanti, almost almost always, they never give up the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in spite of those impediments. Okay, please read the purport. Somebody can read it.
Sri Shukdev Goswami accepted both of the king's propositions that a person who is advanced in Krishna consciousness cannot embrace materialistic life again, and that one who has embraced materialistic life cannot take up Krishna consciousness at any stage of his existence. Although accepting both these statements, Shukdev Goswami qualified them by saying that the person who has once absorbed his mind in the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may sometimes be influenced by impediments, but he still does not give up his exalted devotional position. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there are two kinds of impediments to devotional service. The first is an offense to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. This is called Vaishnava Aparadha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned his devotees not to commit Vaishnava Aparadha, which he described as the mad elephant offense. When a mad elephant enters a beautiful garden, it destroys everything, leaving a barren field. Similarly, the power of Vaishnava Aparadha is so great that even an advanced devotee becomes almost devoid of his spiritual assets if he commits this. Since Krishna consciousness is eternal, it cannot be destroyed altogether, but advancement may be checked for the time being. Thus, Vaishnava Aparadha is one kind of impediment to devotional service. Sometimes, however, the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee desires to impede one's devotional service. For example, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were formerly Jay and Vijay, the gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. But by the desire of the Lord, they became his enemies for 3 lives. Thus, the desire of the Lord is another kind of impediment. But in both cases, the pure devotee, once advanced in Krishna consciousness, cannot be lost. Following the orders of his superiors, Swayambhuva and Lord Brahma, Priyavatra accepted family life. But this does not mean that he lost his position in devotional service. Krishna consciousness is perfect and eternal, and therefore it cannot be lost under any circumstances. Because the material world is full of obstructions to advancement in Krishna consciousness, there may appear to be many impediments, yet Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, declares in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Once one has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, he cannot be lost. In this verse, the word Shivatamam is very significant. Shivatamam means the most auspicious. The devotional path is so auspicious that a devotee cannot be lost under any circumstances. This is described in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. Partha neveha namudra vinashastasya vidyate. My dear Arjuna, for a devotee there is no question of being lost either in this life or in the next. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly explains how this is so. Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuya samsiddhav kurunandana. By the order of the Lord, a perfect devotee sometimes comes to this material world like an ordinary human being. Because of his previous practice, such a perfect devotee naturally becomes attached to devotional service, apparently without cause. Despite all kind of impediments due to surrounding circumstances, he automatically perseveres in devotional service and gradually advances until he once again becomes perfect. Bilvamangal Thakur had been an advanced devotee in his previous life, but in his next life he became greatly fallen and was attached to a prostitute. Suddenly, however, his entire behavior was changed by the words of the very prostitute who had so much attracted him, and he became a great devotee. In the lives of exalted devotees, there are many such instances, proving that once one has taken to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, he cannot be lost. Kaunteya pratijanihi nama bhakta pranashyati. The fact is, however, that one becomes a devotee when he is completely freed from all reactions to sinful life. As Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Yesham tvam antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam Te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam drida. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of illusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. On the other hand, as Prahlad Maharaj said, Matirna Kishne Parato Satova Mitho Bipatteta Graha Vratana. A person is too much attached to materialistic family life. Home, family, wife, children, and so on cannot develop Krishna consciousness. These apparent contradictions are resolved in the life of a devotee by the grace of the Supreme Lord, and therefore a devotee is never bereft of his position on the path of liberation, which is described in this verse as Shiva Tamam Padati.
Okay, so since Srila Prabhupada has quoted Vishwanath Thakur, and most of the points are taken from there, but still we will read.
Because
Good.
Those whose minds are observed
in the Lord do not reject the topics of the Lord, which are most dear to the Paramahamsa's persons related to the Lord. Bhagavata, though the topics are somewhat interrupted, those topics are the path, Padavi, giving happiness to the devotees, since by that path the devotee attains the Lord. But does the following verse not show that there is an obstacle? Tadanake Madhava Tavaka Kauchit Prasyanti Mrigai
Margat.
Margai Ivayi Baddha Saurabha
Vaya Vigutta.
Vaya Vigutta Vichitranti Nirbhaya Vinaya Kanika Murdasu Prabhava. O Madhava, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the Goddesses of Fortune, if devotees completely in love with you sometimes fall from the path of devotion, they do not fall like non-devotees. For you still perfect them, protect them. Thus they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.33. True, the devotees does not have any obstacle arising from time and karma. However, there are two types of obstacle for the devotees, that caused by great offense and that caused by the Lord's desire. Great offense is pacified over a long time after undergoing appropriate difficulties, or is quickly removed by the mercy of the great devotees. Examples are Divita and Raganuga. Rahugana. The Lord's desire means to teach proper conduct to the devotee, and the obstacle arising from the Lord's desire only increasing prema in the devotee. The example is Bharata. Since Priyavrata did not commit offense, his obstacle arose by the desire of the Lord. The Lord taught him devotees by showing through adoration for a deer that the devotee should not have attachment through, though they may think such attachment is good quality. It should be understood in the case of Priyavrata that the Lord taught that the devotee should follow the order of superiors, though it is not suitable for bhakti, by showing how Priyavrata followed the order of Brahma.
Okay. So here, Srila Prabhupada, quoting from the Acharyas, is explaining why there can be obstacles in the life of a devotee. Not just ordinary devotees, but those devotees who are aveshita, who are totally absorbed, who are attached to the nectar at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So even for such devotees, there can be obstacles. Then what to speak of us? So now the next question is why? Why there are obstacles? So there are two reasons are being given. One is Vaishnava Aparadha, and the other is desire of the Lord. So we'll try to analyze both of them a little more. So the first one is aparadha. How many types of aparadhas are there? Okay, first of all, what's the definition of an aparadha? What's the definition of aparadha?
The action which will make us away from Krishna is.
Okay, an action which takes us away from Krishna or
Dissatisfied Krishna.
okay, dissatisfies Krishna. Aparadha. So that which takes us away from the loving devotional service to Krishna as exhibited by Srimati Radharani, as empowered by Srimati Radharani. So anything that displeases Bhakti Devi, Srimati Radharani, so that's an aparadha. How many types of aparadhas? How many types of aparadhas? Nama aparadha, seva aparadha. Vaishnava aparadha comes under Nama aparadha, but okay, that also is taken exclusively as a separate one. And Jiva aparadha. So basically these are the four types of aparadhas. Okay. So Nama aparadhas, we know every day we recite the 10 offenses to the holy name. And the first one is the Vaishnava aparadha, which is being quoted over here. And what is the atonement for each of these aparadhas is different, correct? There are specific atonements for each of these aparadhas. What is the atonement for, what is seva aparadha? What is seva aparadha? Okay, fine. So, in general, of course, it is an offense committed while performing some devotional activity, some devotional service. More specifically, of course, in relation to deity worship. And as we know, the nectar of devotion gives how many offenses? 32. Yes, 32. 32 seva aparadhas in connection to deity worship. What's the atonement for seva aparadha?
Sincerely praying to deity for forgiving all those offenses.
Okay, sincerely praying to the deities. And what else? Yes, chanting the holy names. Chanting the holy names. Then one can be excused for what? Inadvertently committed seva aparadhas. That point has to be very clear. It is only when one has inadvertently, unknowingly committed the seva aparadha, then by chanting the holy names, offering prayers, and chanting some specific mantras, one can be absolved or the effects of the seva aparadha can be nullified. If one commits a seva aparadha knowingly, carelessly, then the seva aparadha turns into now. On the basis of which verse? Nam no balad yassi papa buddhi. Knowingly committing offense on the strength of the holy name. So if one commits a seva aparadha, thinking that, Are chalta hai kya hai, I chant the holy names, it's okay. So if one does like that, then it turns into nam aparadha, then disastrous consequences. So one cannot knowingly or carelessly commit the seva aparadhas also. Maybe in one of the class we gave this example of, say, a pujari who has been called for service last minute. I give the example. What's the rest of it?
So he was given the service of preparing something for the deities, and he was hearing some.
Okay, no, not this one. Now,
Step downs.
what's that?
Step downs.
No. So suppose there's a pujari has been called for service last minute, and then so because he's in a hurry, So he forgets to do the Achman. He forgets to do the Achman. And he goes on with his Aarti. And so he's doing the Aarti. And as he's doing the Aarti, he remembers, oh, I forgot to do the Achman. So now there can be two responses when he remembers. One response could be, oh, it's okay, what to do, that in-charge fellow last night he told me what. I'm not responsible for this. He told last night and in a hurry I forgot. So what can I do? Don't blame me for this. Anyway, so okay, I'll chant some mantras, I'll chant the holy names. So this is one response. Another response could be, oh, I forgot to do the Achman. Oh, I'm so careless. I should have done it. So then he prays to the Lord for forgiveness, there's repentance, and then he may do some extra service. Right? Two responses. So what is the first response?
It's an offense.
The first response will become offense. Why?
Knowingly.
Yes, it's a wrong attitude. It's a wrong attitude. So he is careless. So of course, okay, agreed, he did it in a hurry and it was inadvertent at that point of time. But then when he realized it, if he still thinks that, oh, it's okay, negligent, then the seva aparadh turns into nama aparadh. But when one realizes one has committed seva aparadh, one is repentant, one begs for forgiveness, then yes, then one will be forgiven. Okay, so one should clearly understand this difference between seva aparadh and nama aparadh. This is explained by Vishnu Thakur in the Madhava. Okay, yes, bro.
I have an incident to share.
Go ahead. Please take the mic.
So I'm sharing this incident just to remind myself how attitude is very important, especially when it comes to deity worship. I was struggling with some stomach issues, and my thread I woke up in the morning, but the thread was somehow not fully clean. It was contaminated, and I had to do deity worship also. So I thought, at sunrise we will change. Deity worship can be done with contaminated thread also. In that mode, thinking like this only exactly, I had bath, I put on my deity worship clothes, and I went to do the deity worship. And I was telling, chalta, pujari hai, bahut kam time hai, chalta. I started doing the deity worship. As soon as I opened the altar, from nowhere a lizard came and ran over my body, and then accidentally I stepped over it. Our temple president saw it. He said, "Come out of the altar. You cannot do deity worship." And then he said, "Go and change your thread. Go and have bath, and all those rituals he has to do." So I did that. And then I realized it is very serious business. And somehow for the next week also, my bad health continued. I was not getting deity worship. So I had to literally pray and beg forgiveness that I will really not do it again. Then I got a chance.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the honest confession. So one should not overlook these things, and one should, when one knows it, then one should not do it. So one should be careful about this. Not that one takes it like, oh, that's seva aparadh. It doesn't fall in the list of 10 offenses. Okay, so that's seva aparadh, then Vaishnava aparadh, and jiva aparadh. Even to the jivas in general, one should be careful. Because we don't know which jiva will become a great Mahabhagavat. At what point of time? Which is the best example for this? Yes, Dhruva Maharaj. So who got punishment? Suruchi. Even though she offended Dhruva when he was not a devotee. But still she got the consequence. So we don't know. So therefore the best principle is,
Treat with respect.
yes, respect every living entity, because every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. So if we have that proper spiritual understanding, proper spiritual perspective, then we'll respect everyone and everything. And then there'll be less probability of committing offenses, and we're safe. As Prabhupada in many lectures he says, a devotee respects even an ant and even a mosquito. So that's the, as one devotee said, the vaccination to prevent Vaishnava Aparadha is respectful attitude. So respectful attitude to everyone, less likely to commit offenses. Okay, so now,
Prabhuji, one question here. The next slide on this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, great offense is pacified over a long time of undergoing appropriate difficulties, or is quickly removed by the mercy of great devotees. So when the Vaishnava Aparadha is committed, so the mercy of another devotee can remove that.
mercy of another devotee. Well, we have one example in that connection. Who's that?
Devanand.
Yes, Devanand Pandit. He was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he was forgiven by service to Vakreshwar Pandit. So the service to Vakreshwar Pandit attracted the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a result of which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgave. That's possible, but in the remedial measures for Vaishnava Aparadha, in the Mother Kadamini, Vishwanath Thakur gives 3 steps. We know them, but just to list them down. What are 3 steps?
Beg forgiveness from that person.
Beg forgiveness from?
Person whom we
Yes, from the Vaishnava whom we have offended. Second?
Repentance.
Yes, repentance. And third?
And chant.
Chanting the holy names. So these are 3 steps he gives. But he very clearly mentions that chanting the holy names is not a substitute to the other 2 steps. It is not a substitute. Because that's easy, isn't it? The other 2 are difficult. Oh, going to that Vaishnava, begging forgiveness, oh, that is too difficult. Oh, I take my bead bag and chant some 2 extra rounds. Now, it doesn't work that way. The Lord himself showed that in the pastime of? Yes, Durvas Muni and Ambarish Maharaj. Now, no, you have to go. You have to go to Ambarish Maharaj and beg forgiveness. No option. So that's the general case. That's always the case. So in the case of Devanand Pandit, well, of course, Srivas Thakur in the first place did not take offense. Of course, neither did Ambarish Maharaj. That's the nature of Vaishnava. And well, for whatever reason, Devanand Pandit did not go directly to Srivas Thakur and ask forgiveness. But Mahaprabhu in any case accepted that service and forgave him. I'm not aware whether later on Devanand Pandit asked forgiveness from Srivas Thakur, I don't know.
Yeah, even I was searching, I couldn't get that.
Okay, yes, so we don't, but in any case, he was forgiven. We could treat that as an exception, I suppose. But the Acharyas very clearly mentioned there is no option to going to that Vaishnava and begging for forgiveness. That's what the Acharyas said. And so, in most cases, that's what one is supposed to do. Exceptions would be there.
This statement, therefore, I asked, by the mercy of.
So, what I understood from this statement is the mercy of those great devotees whom one has offended. So that's what, at least that's my understanding. Because that is what the Acharyas will mention. Of course, serving other great devotees also will attract mercy, and that will also help. That will also help definitely. But again, I don't think so. There's a substitute to begging forgiveness from the Vaishnava whom one is aware. As we even see in the case of that pastime of Rupa Goswami, who unknowingly offended that Brahmana, and then he lost his meditation, and then he had to actually ask forgiveness from that Vaishnava. So there doesn't seem to be a substitute for that.
But in the case of Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, when Rupa Goswami sent Jiva Goswami out of Vrindavan, but Sanatana Goswami pleased with Jiva Goswami and came back to Rupa Goswami, said that we should take him back. Will it like this for me?
Of course, that's again a very special case. There was, in the first place, we actually cannot consider that an offense. Because again, when it comes to Vaishnava Aparadh, the Acharyas very clearly define a Vaishnava Aparadh as that which is done out of envy. That's the very clear understanding of Vaishnava Aparadh. So only when it's done out of envy, to bring down the Vaishnava, to defame the Vaishnava, to pull down the Vaishnava, it's done out of envy, then only that is to be considered an offense. So the Bhasma of Jiva Goswami actually that goes outside the paradigm of offense. So Jiva Goswami had very clear intentions as to why he tried to defeat that scholar. But Rupa Goswami was unhappy by that attitude. And then Sanatana Goswami was trying to help them. So that's a slightly different case.
So in this punished, the envy part, it's given Madhurya.
Yes, very, very clearly mentioned.
Out of it.
Yes.
But then this contradicts the Rupa Goswami's pastime.
Yes. So now again, Rupa Goswami's pastime is also, very special. And as we can see over here, as he mentions here, that for when some things are, sort of planned by the Lord, then the results of the offense actually don't take place. It doesn't serve as an impediment to one's practice of devotional service. It only increases the prema. So even though Rupa Goswami apparently for that point of time the meditation broke, but there was no obstacle as such in his practice of devotional service, right? And so his meditation broke. It served as a sort of, you could say, impetus to be careful, but then we don't see it as an obstacle in his practice of devotional service. And so, as he says, maybe the Lord wanted to teach Rupa Goswami, or he wanted to teach all of us, whatever may be the situation. So, if we take that under the category of the Lord's plan, then as Vishwanath Chakravarti says, when it is under the category of the Lord's plan or the Lord's desire, the result is the prema increases. So I don't think so we could take that as an example of advertently or knowingly committing an offense. It was surely not in that category, right? It was surely totally unknowingly. So again, that we cannot take as, put it in the category of a typical Vaishnava aparadh. Because by definition, a typical Vaishnava aparadh is one who does it out of envy. And of course, there are so many such examples. Like Daksha and Lord Shiva and Gopal Chapal and Srivas Thakur and
Gopal
Chakravarti and Haridas Thakur and
Ramchandra Puri.
yes, Ramchandra Puri and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vaishnavas and
Ramchandra Khan and Nityananda Prabhu.
Ramchandra Khan and Nityananda Prabhu, and before Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur. He tried to defame Haridas Thakur by sending the prostitute. So all those are typical examples of Vaishnava aparadh, where knowingly one has tried to pull down and defame a Vaishnava. So then the consequences are terrible. So then that acts as a great obstacle. And so then one has to go through the various difficulties, the results of having committed the offense. So as he's saying here, great offense is pacified over a long time after undergoing appropriate difficulties. Now, as Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport here, Srila Prabhupada writes, he's talking about the mad elephant offense and how the garden is destroyed. Similarly, the power of Vaishnava Aparadha is so great that even an advanced devotee becomes almost devoid of his spiritual assets if he commits it. Since Krishna consciousness is eternal, it cannot be destroyed altogether, but advancement may be checked for the time being. So then, how do we understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Rupa Goswami, where he says that just like the elephant, he totally uproots the plant. So Mahaprabhu says, breaks and uproots. That's what Mahaprabhu says. So you take a plant, it's uprooted and broken. Then what remains? What remains?
Barren land.
Barren land. It's uprooted and broken. Then what remains? Nothing remains. Then at the same time, Neha Vikram Nashasti Pratyavayana. So how do you reconcile both?
That has been a lot of discussion in our ashram many times.
So what's the conclusion of your discussion?
Couldn't get a conclusion. Some places.
But you gave an example last time.
What is that?
The frozen bank.
That's example of his Holiness Kadana Maharaj. The frozen bank account, that's his example. I've heard it from him. Everyone knows the example, right? The frozen bank account. The money is there, but no access. But then, okay, that helps us understand to some degree. But then Mahaprabhu is giving the analogy of the elephant uprooting the Bhakti Lata. So then when uprooting means what? Uprooting, breaking means what? Nothing remains. Then, how do you understand?
One feels like that here.
One feels like that. So what is it? So what is the feeling?
They use taste for seva, sadhana. They start getting material dealings with Vaishnavas. They find themselves alienated. These kind of things will happen. But as a matter of fact, when they beg forgiveness, when they become repentant, then they will slowly, just like Sauri Muni and others, they will slowly recover the lost wealth.
Okay, that's a good explanation. So that's correct actually. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he gives this analogy. So he gives the analogy of a diseased person. Person has disease is fever. So then the person who has a disease, what he has to undergo? Treatment. So he has to undergo treatment. So depending upon the severity of the disease, the severity of the treatment, just like somebody who has cancer, the treatment is as dangerous as the disease itself. Correct? In fact, there are patients who refuse the treatment because it is so costly. Cancer patients actually have to be given counseling to take the treatment. They require counseling. It's a fact. Because the method of administration And the consequences of the treatment, especially, whatever it is, whether it be surgery or chemo or radio, whatever, the consequences themselves are so deadly and ghastly, and patients have to be sometimes convinced, they have to be somehow counseled to take the treatment, and which lasts over several months, almost a year sometimes. Not so easy. That is the example what Vishnu Chakravarti is giving. So then he has to go through that treatment, and when he goes through that treatment, then gradually the symptoms of the disease reduce. That is the analogy being given. And that's the same thing what he's saying here also. He has to go through the difficulties, is pacified over a long time after undergoing appropriate difficulties. So one has to go through that. If one does not get the mercy of the devotee, then one has to go through that. And so, the difficulties could be even on the material platform. There could be a lot of difficulties in terms of, it could be diseases, it could be so many other inconveniences. And of course, Krishna withdraws his mercy, then the taste is gone, then everything that is spiritual appears to be material. And when the degree of offense is very severe, then the person practically loses all taste for all spiritual activities. Then what remains of spiritual life? What remains? Nothing. It is as good as zero. Zero spiritual life. That is why Mahaprabhu is giving that example of totally uprooting and breaking the Bhakti Lata. Spiritual life comes to zero. Then how do we reconcile the Neha Vikramanashasti verse? So therefore, the way we reconcile is that yes, it comes back, it's almost zero. He has to start practically again from Adho Shraddha Sadhu Sangh. He has to start from there. But then, when he gets the associate, first of all, treatment has to be complete. When the treatment is complete and once again he comes into the association of devotees, then he gets the help of his previous devotional credits. That time he will get help from the previous devotional credits. Just like we have the example of,
I agree.
who's that?
I agree with Prabhu. Like, he was.
Okay. We are talking about that. Prabhupada disciple. Okay, we are talking about a little more Shastric example. No, Bharat Maharaj's case is totally different.
It's not offense.
Yes, it's totally different.
How about Daksha Babu?
What happened to Daksha?
He did the offense against Shiva, but when head was taken, he repented and repented it even like otherwise would expect.
Okay. But then Daksha, of course, he had to not only just lose his head and he lost his life, in fact. Correct. And then, of course, he severely repented. And then, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, of course, he got a goat's head, and then, of course, once again, he had to be born, and all those things happened. So, well, again, he offended Narad Muni. So, Well, Daksha's example cannot be taken as a very typical example of a Vaishnava who once again regained his spiritual credits. But there's one good example, or at least we can say, quite a close example to how one who lost his spiritual credits, but he took help of his previous spiritual credits in the time of danger.
So,
Gajendra.
Gajendra.
Yes, Gajendra is the example. So there was an offense, of course, that also was inadvertent in one sense, but in any case, Augustine only, right? Yes, he Augustine became an elephant. So in the elephant's body there was practically no remembrance of devotional service. It was an elephant. But he got the help of his previous devotional credits when he was in danger. So, something similar. So, a Vaishnava also who commits an aparadh against a Vaishnava, so he also loses practically everything. But then, when the treatment has been complete, that means he has gone through the punishment, he has gone through the repentance and rectification and all that has taken place, then when he once again comes to devotional service, so it's almost like zero. It's almost like zero devotional service. But when he once again comes to devotional service, then he will get the help of his previous devotional credits. And that is why here, Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Which one? Yes, this one. Takratam buddhi sanyogam labate paurvadekam yatate cha tato bhuya samsiddho gurunandana. So even though it has been lost, because of his previous practice, such a perfect devotee naturally becomes attached to devotional service apparently without cause. And therefore he is given the example of Bilvamangal Thakur. So Bilvamangal Thakur also advanced devotee in his previous life, but in the next life, I don't know what was the exact reason for losing the devotional service in his previous. Somebody knows the previous story? Why he sort of almost lost that devotional service and almost became a materialist. Somebody can try to find what was the reason. Anybody knows? No reference. Anyway, so whatever it is, Prabhupada is quoting that example. And then how suddenly the behavior changed. But just by the words of the prostitute. That is the meaning of this. Labate paurvadehikam. So that is what happens. So even though devotional service has become almost zero, he is almost like a materialist, correct? But then some slight impetus, and immediately all the material attachments are finished and all his devotional credits come to his rescue. So this is how we reconcile both. And that is what Prabhupada is quoting here.
Well, this shloka, Tatratam Bhakti Sanyoga, this comes in the section where when a yogi does not complete the bhakti mark. So,
but the principle basically remains, isn't it? What is the principle? The principle is, due to whatever reason, if one has not completed one's devotional service, then next life, the Paramatma reminds him of his previous devotional activities and impels him to continue. That is what is the principle. So somebody may have fallen away or not completed his devotional path because of maybe some material attachments, may not be necessarily a Vaishnava aparadh, whatever may be the reason. But even if it is due to a Vaishnava aparadh that one has given up devotional service, but still the previous devotional activities will be revived when he has become free from the effects of the Vaishnava. That is why Prabhupada is quoting these verses here. And that is what is the example of Bilkanta Thakur. So therefore, that's how we can reconcile both those points. That yes, on one hand, devotional service becomes almost like zero, and therefore, as Prabhupada also he says, almost devoid. Therefore, Prabhupada says almost devoid of his spiritual assets. There's almost devoid means it's almost nil. His devotional service becomes almost nil. But why? Still it is almost. Why? Because the account is still there. And then when the treatment is complete, and therefore Prabhupada says, advancement may be checked. It cannot be destroyed altogether. Advancement may be checked for the time being. For the time being means as long as the treatment is going on. And when the treatment is complete, then the previous remembrance of devotional service will come to his rescue. And he gets help from those previous devotional practices. Hope that helps.
How to understand that last line that is mentioned? It should be understood in the case of Priyavrat that Lord taught that the devotee should follow the orders of superiors, though it is not suitable for them.
Yes. So in the case of Bharat Maharaj and Priyavrat Maharaj, the cause for their obstruction goes into the second category, and that is Lord's plan. So through Bharat Maharaj and Priyavrat Maharaj, the Lord wanted to teach the world some lessons. And they became examples for the Lord's lessons. So in that connection, Srila Prabhupada gives analogy. Which one?
Mother-in-law.
Good. And in what connection did Srila Prabhupada give that analogy? He gave that analogy in the connection of another Vaishnava, who was also used as an instrument to teach the world something.
One of his godbrothers.
Arjuna Krishna gave.
I think Krishna Maharaj was taken.
Bhishma Dev. First Canto, 9th chapter. So Prabhupada gives that analogy in the connection of Bhishma Dev, that how Bhishma Dev took the side of the opposite party, the Kauravas, even though he knew he was a great devotee, but yet he took the side of the Kauravas for what? It was the Lord's plan to teach the world that anyone who takes the side of adharma, even if he is as powerful as Bhishma Dev, will be destroyed. That was the lesson that the Lord wanted to teach the world through Bhishma Dev. And in that context, Prabhupada gives that analogy of the mother-in-law teaches the daughter-in-law through the daughter. And that is the same principle here also. So the Lord wants to teach through the example of Bharat Maharaj. He wants to teach that how even a devotee as advanced as Bharat Maharaj should still be very careful about material attachments. And the lesson he wants to teach through Priyavrat Maharaj is that how even an advanced devotee should always be submissive and should always follow the orders of the superiors. That's the lesson the Lord wants to teach through these great devotees. They became instruments for the Lord's lessons.
Specifically that line, though it is not suitable for me.
A devotee should follow the order of the superiors, though it is not suitable for bhakti, apparently. In the case of Priyavrat Maharaj, it appeared as if it was not suitable for bhakti. But by following the instructions of the superior, one attracts their mercy. Then what will happen? That was Parikshit Maharaj's question, right? What was Parikshit Maharaj's question? That is the question he's asking. That is the doubt. That even though he appeared to be attached to family affairs, but still he was a great Mahabhagavat. That itself is proof that how, even though it appeared to be as an obstacle to bhakti, but still he made great progress because he followed the orders of the superior. And Otherwise, the question would not have arisen only. If he was an ordinary devotee who was simply attached to material affairs, then how could he make spiritual progress? The doubt arose because both contradictory things are happening simultaneously. That is why Parishad Maharaj is asking question. On one hand, he seems to be attached to material affairs. On the other hand, he has made spiritual progress. How is it possible? So therefore, apparently it appeared as if the instruction to take to household life was contrary to bhakti, not suitable for bhakti. But as we will see as the pastime goes on, but at the same time we find that Brahma also gave blessings to Priyavrat for following his instruction. Because who is giving the instruction? It is not a fool who is giving the instruction. It is Brahmaji himself who is giving the instruction. How can Brahmaji give an instruction which is not favorable for bhakti? So apparently it happened.
Like, is it just following the superior instruction? Blind following again?
No blind following. Prabhupada has written where? No blind following. 434 purports. What is 434? Bhagavad Gita? Tadvadita. Yes. Blind following and absurd inquiries both are condemned. Prabhupada has written. So not blind following. Therefore, as we will see as the pastime goes on, what Brahmaji tells Priyavrat Maharaj, we will see. So there is no question of blind following here. So Brahmaji gives sufficient evidence to impel Priyavrat Maharaj to follow that instruction. So if any senior devotee gives us an instruction to do something which is contrary to bhakti or not conducive to bhakti, we cannot blindly follow. Then one has to at least check with other senior Vaishnavas and consult. We can't blindly.
So regarding this Vaishnava path, the discussion that we had. So when it is unknowingly committed, but the other person is feeling bad, he's hurt or something like that. So in what category that comes?
So that will not fall in the category of classical Vaishnava aparadh, but still the principle of displeasing a Vaishnava is still there. Just like in the case of Rupa Goswami, it was not a classical Vaishnava aparadh, but because he had displeased, there was some impediment. And therefore we find when Arjuna saw the Vishwarup, what did he say in his prayers? He sought forgiveness for what? For unknowingly committing some offenses. As a friend. Actually, in dealings between friends, there are no offenses. Correct? Prabhupada writes that. In dealings between friends, there is no offense. But now he has understood that Krishna is not just a friend. He has understood that he is Param Brahma. So therefore now he is saying, oh, as a friend I may have committed some offenses. Please forgive me for those unknowingly committed offenses. So therefore, it doesn't fall in the category of a classical Vaishnava aparadh. But even when somebody has displeased a Vaishnava unknowingly, because Vaishnava is displeased means Krishna is displeased. And therefore, there is a possibility of some impediment taking place. And therefore, to atone for even these unknowingly committed Vaishnava offenses, what do? We don't even know whom we have offended unknowingly. Then what?
Pray to Krishna.
Yes, one thing is praying to Krishna. And what else we do?
Morning prayer.
Yes, therefore we offer obeisances and beg for forgiveness from all Vaishnavas. Yes, offering the prayers, all Vaishnavas. So that if we have unknowingly counted, we may receive some grace.
Probably two devotees are like a difference of opinion. See, he is also right in some extent, he is also right in some extent. Both are displeased each other. How this works? It works as a friends towards each other.
Everything is based on intention. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written that beautiful statement in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction. What?
Advanced in Krishna consciousness
Depends upon the attitude of the form. So much of Krishna consciousness depends upon attitude, intentions. These matter a lot. More than the external activity. The intentions matter. So, therefore, of course, as I sometimes said, good intentions are not good enough. So, with all good intentions, still one should definitely try to present things in an appropriate way so that others don't feel offended, displeased. So, definitely one should be careful. At the same time, it's not possible to please everyone. So, if one has good intentions, then yes, then things are excused if one has good intentions.